Good morning. Please be seated, everybody. We have a tight schedule this morning, so we want to start right away. I call upon the Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Manik Samari Reprint, the Principal, and all the 10 guests who are seated on these two rows to join in lighting the oil lamp. If you can please walk towards the oil lamp, I appreciate that. And also, I have assigned some from the city group who are intimately involved in the classroom project to join in lighting the lamp. Ranjit Vikramasinghe, SJ, SL,
Thank you, gentlemen. Next up, to pay tribute to our mater, please rise for the calling song. Thank you. Moving on to our first proceeding this morning's agenda, and we now invite Mr. Vajragunawardena, representing the group of 1960, to deliver the welcoming address.
Thank you. Honorable Prime Minister and 60 Group classmate Mr. Ranil Wickramasinghe, Honorable Malik Samar Wickrama, another 60 Group classmate, Principal Ms. Aberetna, Secretary and Trustees of the RCU, Secretary of STS, my distinguished colleagues from the 60 Group who traveled from all parts of the world to witness this event, staff and students of Royal College, and those watching the live streaming from throughout the world provided by the RCU Media Center, using equipment donated by the alumni colleagues in New York. It is my privilege to welcome each and every one of you to celebrate with us the culmination of our philanthropies to benefit future generations of royalists, many of whom you see in the back rows. We want you to relax and enjoy the presentation over the next few hours in these comfortable surroundings. At the end of the event, the 60 Group is going to provide you with a fabulous high tea catered by Mount Lavinia Hotel at Galkissa. To my distinguished Thomian guests, which includes a legal luminary, Dr. Rohan Pereira, former UN ambassador, cricket legends Michael Tissera and Prabhu Karyavasan. There are still some good venues in Galkissa. You may ask, didn't the 60 group have big celebrations last year when we completely restored the entire top floor of the West Wing consisting of 10 classrooms, enabling 500 students to learn in a safe environment? Yes. But one of the 60 groupers who attended last year's event saw what our group accomplished, gave a big check, and looked at my face and my co-sponsor of this project, Dr. Mohan Kumar Ratna, and said, Machan, you did the classrooms, but I'm giving you the money to furnish them. You better get it done. So we were scratching our heads. We are aging, right? We are in our 70s. Can we do this? But then we saw the ultimate result of our product and we said we have to do it. Now when we committed to that, everybody jumped on the bandwagon. We had a 60 grouper from Australia who said, Machan, can you do a scholarship program? Then there was another gentleman who is seated right here said, Machan, why don't we do a book project? We need to teach all these young royals the history of Royal College. How much do you know about the history of Royal? So we sat down and we said, listen, these are all noble projects, and before we can no longer perform these activities, we decided this is going to be our last hurrah, because we can see time is running out and the exit lounge is coming up, so we decided we want to finish that. One of the things we had to do before we embarked on this, like good married people, you have to get clearance from the bosses. So I asked my wife, I said, listen, we want to do this. Then she asked me, Vajira, are you married to me or are you married to Royal College? So my response was, yes, I am married to you, but I am having an affair with Royal College. And then she responded and I said, Vajira, that's the only affair that I am going to allow. So, because of these noble requests and the clearance from our spouses, we embarked on this next journey. We formed 4 subcommittees, and the details of those subcommittees are in your program. And we promised, we set a goal. We said, before our 70th bash, which is falling today, and the bash is happening in the evening, that we will make sure that we have delivered this product to the future generation of royals. We pride in our 60 group for having produced leaders of the country, 2 of whom are here today. An Attorney General we excelled in academics, excelled in sports, where we won the Royal Thermian Bradley and the Gunaratna Trophy all in 1 year. My good friend Ajita is going to elaborate more on that later. However, today we are not celebrating any of those achievements, but we are celebrating the accomplishments of our group in giving back to our alma mater. Thanks to these efforts, we have delivered the classroom project where, as I mentioned before, 500 students are now learning in a healthy and safe environment. We also embarked on the scholarship program that I mentioned before. The RCU loyalty pledge, you all know Galba Sarirathan, right? He's an icon in RCU. He called me and said, Vajira, what are you guys doing there? Are these poor students who can't afford me once they come to Royal? He said, okay, so what do you want me to do? I said, well, you're 60 group, you guys are good, raise the money. So we had this Australian 60 grouper who said, let's do it. And I just got a call this morning that as of today, within a matter of 3 to 4 months, we have raised ₹1 million. And our goal is to raise 20 million rupees, which we will do. Okay. We also got a call from RCU saying, hey, you guys are doing so well. Our Lalit Atulat Mudali Prize, the most prestigious award, which is given to the most all-round student, is running out of funds. So the team got together, said, hey, we can't let that happen. So 4 of us in the United States got together while we were doing a bachelor's trip last summer after some wine in wine country in California, thanks to my good friend Dr. Mohan Kumar Ratna. We said, listen, before we drink the wine, let's commit to funding this scholarship. So they badgered me for 5 minutes. I said, listen, we have to do this. We did that. We agreed and we completely funded the Lalita scholarship so that you young royalists, we have made sure that for generations to come, that scholarship will be completely funded. Then my illustrious Sri Guru Senaka Veeraratna, he is an Arabic author, a lawyer, smart attorney. He said, Vajira, you guys are doing so much, but we have to learn about the history of Royal College. How much do you know about history other than the school song? And he was right. We did not know our beginnings. He said, there's a book and we want to publish it. So he's looking at us and he said, okay, you're going to publish it, who's going to fund it? He said, you guys are going to fund it. So again, we got together and we agreed this was a good deal, a good project for the future of Royal, and we funded that. And you will witness the launching of that book very shortly. In conclusion, as we reach the glorious 70s with the exit lounge inside, we can rest assured that we have at least given something back to alma mater that made us what we are. In closing, as I mentioned to the principal earlier this week, there are many wealthy Royal alumni around the world willing to give money. In fact, before I left, I got a message, a phone call from the next president of the New York Royal Alumni. He said, Vajira, next year I'm going to dedicate all the profits of our fundraising dance to Royal College. So you better go and talk to the principal and our CEO and find out what we can do. But he said, make sure whatever you agree to, that there's transparency and accountability. I hope that such opportunities are fully utilized by the Royal Administration. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for those warm words of welcome. Moving on to our next proceeding this morning, as we now invite the Secretary of the Royal College Union, Mr. Mendes, to address this esteemed gathering.
Honorable Ranil Wickremesinghe, Prime Minister of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka, Honorable Minister, Principal of Royal College, Mr. B. Abhiratna, members of the academic staff of Royal College, Vice Presidents, Trustees, Past Secretaries, Office Bearers of Royal College Union, President, Committee members and members of the Royal College Group of 1960, Secretary of the SDS, distinguished boys, present boys, and distinguished invitees. The launch of the reprint of the history of Royal College, which was written by schoolboys in 1931, is no doubt a momentous occasion. The school of our fathers has stood the test of time through several generations and has molded men to serve Sri Lanka and the world at large. As an institution that has stood tall for over 180 years, it is with great interest that we view the records of time seen by those who were adult almost 90 years ago. Royal has always incited passion in the boys who have walked in and out of the gates of our alma mater. This book is an example of that fact. where it has been painstakingly and lovingly collated by one group of students. And 88 years later, with equal passion, retrieved and brought to life by another set of schoolboys who are now old boys. Therefore, on behalf of the Royal College Union, I wish to thank the members of the Royal College 1960 group for their great endeavor in retrieving and reprinting this manuscript. Many thanks also go to, and appreciation also is extended to those who contributed in many ways to the realization of this project. Today, we will also witness the handing over of many scholarships and sponsorships, of which the 10 scholarships for the Loyalty Pledge program is a timely one. I do not need to introduce the Loyalty Pledge program, but to just assure you that the almost 2,000 students who have received benefit from this program will always thank you for your generosity. I see that there is a very elaborate agenda, and I will not take too much of your time. I will simply say that the 1960 group is a great example of the love the alumni holds in their heart for our school. It is without a doubt that this is the key strength that allows Royal to be Royal in the face of many challenges that are thrown at us. Hence, I wish to conclude my speech by thanking the Royal College 1960 group for their commitment to Royal College over the many decades. And as I'm sure the exit lounge, the highway has not still been built, hope to have your commitment as time goes by. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And as you mentioned earlier, we are in a very tight schedule considering the magnitude of the event. Therefore, without any further ado, let me now call upon the Principal of Royal College, Mr. B. Aviratna, to address the gathering.
Honorable Ranil Wickramasinghe, the Prime Minister of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka, Senior Deputy Principal and members of the academic staff of Royal College, Secretary of the Royal College Union, Secretary of the SDS, Vice Presidents, Trustees, Past Secretaries, Office Bearers of the Royal College Union, President, Committee members and members of the Royal College Group of 60. Distinguished all boys, invitees and my dear royalists. As we know, the reprint of the history of Royal College, which was written by students of the school in 1931, under the watch of a remarkable principal, late Mr. H.L. Reid. We are yet again reminded of the greatness of this institution. The original print is believed to be the first written history of the school, and I believe is archived digitally in a university in the USA. The book was launched on the eve of Mr. Reid's departure at a farewell dinner hosted by the all boys of the school at the Golf Face Hotel in Colombo on March 12th in 1932. Over the years, the book, due to the limited edition, had become a collector's item, and it had after some time ceased to be in circulation. The later generations hardly knew of its existence. Fortuitously, the discovery of an online copy of the book in a foreign university library by a member of the Royal College 1960 group in 2017 led to a series of developments that has finally culminated in the publication of the reprint of the book. Through the studies of school's history, we learn of the generosity with which our benefactors and all boys have repaid their gratitude Royal College and how the school since its inception in 1835 has faced the varied challenges and overcome them. I thank the Royal College group of 60s and in particular its representatives who took charge of the execution of the project and all others who have contributed in various ways to the successful publication of this reprint of this history of Royal College. Further today, the group of 60s will hand over several scholarships to the Loyalty Pledge Scholarship Program. This program is one of its kind and has served many students over its initiation. I believe the program today has a video footage of the classroom renovations carried out by the group of 60, which has helped restore the grandeur of the school to its magnificent past. I will conclude my speech by placing on record the school's sincere appreciation of these acts of benevolence by the group of 60 and wish all of you all the very best on behalf of the Royalists of today and tomorrow. Glory.
Thank you, Principal Sir, for sharing your view with this esteemed audience this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, for many years, the group of 1960 has been an integral part when it comes to the development of the college as a whole. Thus, it is now time for me to invite a special individual to elaborate on one of those key projects that they concluded very recently. While mentioning that, let me now hand over the proceedings to Dr. Mohan Kumar Ratna.
Can we dim the lights, please? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Dr. Mohan Kumar Ratna and one of the co-project coordinators for the Royal College West Wing third floor restoration and refurbishment project. I have been given 10 minutes, but I'm going to cut it down and make my points in about 7 minutes or so. So this is a very, very important project. And we are so happy to be here because most of us are celebrating our 70th birthday during 2019. And so it gives me great pleasure to present this project to you, to all our alumni and our guests. This really started, the project started on November 6, 2018. I'm sorry, 2015, when Mr. Vajra Gunawardena organized a walk through our campus. We all gathered from all over the world again for a reunion on November 7, 2015 at Temple Trees, hosted by the Honorable Prime Minister, fellow alumni. And on November 6, 17 of us joined Vajra, and this was the first time many of us were returning to the campus since we graduated. We entered in 1960, we graduated, most of us, 1967, 68. And then we started with the old West Wing top floor, Form 1A, that's just across from the Siabala tree. And we were looking at the building and we were fairly shocked because this was the premier public school of the country and it was really in a pretty poor shape. The windows were falling apart. Molds on the wall, the walls were black, the doors were cheap metal falling apart. You can see huge chunks of plaster falling apart. The floor was cracked, This was right opposite Form 1A, for people who can remember, with mold. The feeling among the people who were there that this was not a safe and pleasant environment for learning. My mother sent me to Royal College to learn, to get a good education. Everything else we call extracurricular activities. And we felt that this was not a safe and pleasant environment for student learning, and therefore we decided to do something about it. We decided to restore the classroom for its original condition and make it a pleasant and safe learning environment for the current students. So we had a plan. We decided to first meet the principal. So Vajiran and I, a couple of days later, met the principal. At that time it was Mr. Upali Gunasekara. And we said, okay, we are going to fix the top floor. That was within our limitations. In fact, the whole west wing was in a mess, as far as I was concerned. He gave us a okay, and we said, okay, we need to get the okay from the Department of Education. Then we formed a group to execute it on behalf of the Sister Group alumni. We called it the Sister Group Development Fund. Its mission was to raise funds and execute the restoration. And we are thankful for Mr. Deepthi Lianage, who was a project lawyer who drew up our articles of incorporation. The next step was to evaluate the west wing third floor via project architect, Srilal Fernando. And that was the next call I made. I called Srilal and said, hey Srilal, because we want to limit this to our alumni, the whole project. Srilal, we need a good architect. Your job is to evaluate the building, and you have to be in charge of you have the project architect, draw the plans, fix it to its specifications. In addition to that, you won't be paid. You have to spend a lot of time, and you have to do it free. So he said, no problem. And that's how we got our project architect. Then we had to get a bill of quantities to get an estimate. Then we had to get the restriction of highly professional, reputable organization. The job was very complex. Sister Group Development Fund was to purchase all supplies and equipment, and the restriction to be monitored by the Sister Group Development Fund for quality, cost, and timeliness. The first thing we needed to do was to fix the roof. And the money of 40 million was already allocated, but there was a block. So we had to use quite a bit of political pressure to get the job started. The tender was awarded in April 2016. The work commenced in August 2016 because when you're replacing the roof, the students had to be relocated. So there's a lot of logistics, there were monsoons, school exams. Finally, the work commenced in August 2016 and was completed once it started by October. And this is a beautiful roof, brand new roof. Please note that the 40 million was for the replacement of the roof for the whole campus. This is the plan drawn up by a project architect. We decided to start from Form 1A, that is the class right across from the Sebala tree. That's the class I and a lot of my colleagues I see here started our education at Royal College. We decided to progress from 1A all the way around. We can get a really accurate cost of the estimate of the restoration. The original budget for the bill of quantities was 28 million. It included 10 classrooms, because one of the classrooms which was not basically destroyed was the shrine room, which was the, if I go back, which was that classroom number 3. So I think the gods protected that particular classroom from the devils who occupying the rest of the 10 classrooms. And this was for generations of students, not only the current a lot. This 28 million was the possibility of the Sister Group to raise funds. We want to limit the funding to Sister Group as much as possible. So we went to Plan B, which was to get the Sri Lankan army to step in to give us all the skilled labor, which included masons, carpenters, painters, electricians, etc., to go ahead and do the labor. And Mr. Vajragunawardena was in charge of negotiating with the commander of the army at that time, old boy Lieutenant General Crisanta de Silva, and he graciously agreed to give us all the labor free, and the estimate from the army was rupees 600,000 for the 10 rooms, and we were going to supply all the supplies, which was the cement, the paint, etc., etc. The army commenced work in February 2017, and you can see they had to practically strip all these 10 classrooms to their bare bricks because the plasters were falling off. It was gold, and here's the carpenters working to replace the windows and the doors. Here is some of our group members on a site visit, including me, Ranjit Vikramasinghe, SL, and Till Lanadesa visiting from Australia with the project officer in charge of the project, Captain Mohan. These are some of our sister group alumni. You can see Sereka Veeratna there with Ajit Vijay Sundara and our project coordinators. Here is a completed classroom. It is the finished classroom, but one thing that you can see is completely out of whack is the state of the chairs and desks, which were made of some cheap metal and doesn't look really suitable with the restored classrooms. So restoration of the third floor was completed by the Sri Lankan Army in May 2018. Total budget for restoration of the 10 classrooms was 7.5 million. 90% of the total budget by sister group donations, 10% by the Royal College Old Boys of New York, New Jersey. Students occupying the refurbished classrooms since February 2018. Grand opening of the restored third floor by the Prime Minister on June 23rd, 2018. Here you can see the Prime Minister very happy, smiling. The priest is happy. STU guys are happy. Children are happy. In fact, I remember the Prime Minister asking the students some questions on math, and fortunately, for the Prime Minister, the students got the question correct. So we are all happy on that particular day, and this is giving his speech. This is an award to the current Army Commander for representing the Army for the wonderful work and the high quality work they did in restoring the classrooms. These are some of the sister group members who were there front and center in the school hall, and you can see Ajit Vijay Sundara and Ranjit Vikramasinghe and Vasanta and everybody, RJ, everybody there. Then the only thing that we had to do was to supply the new wooden desks and chairs, and 430 new wooden desks and chairs were made and delivered and today it's all been delivered. Total budget was 5 million. I had to be honest with you, I was rather concerned because I was wondering how we were going to go to the group again and ask them for funds, because most of them had already contributed, some of them for twice or 3 times. But another group, sister group who wished to remain anonymous, came and gave us $3 million, and the New Jersey group gave us about another 500,000, and then the rest of the guys pitched in, and we were able to easily make that 5 million. And we had to, at this time, also announce that all donations were gratefully accepted, all were acknowledged, all will remain highly confidential, and that was a policy decision we made because we understood that each person's donation is equally valuable to us. Whether they were 300 rupees or 3 million, everybody was treated alike. There are some of our members who are not doing so well in life. They had other priorities. Some of them were very sick, had medical bills, they had to take care of their children, house repairs, etc., etc. No problem. These contributions will remain anonymous, and our group is very tightly knit. It will not be released. I have to also tell you that all the accounts have been audited by a professional accounting firm, and the audit is available for perusal, but each individual donation will remain confidential. This is Ranjit Vikramasinghe checking out the prototype for the desk. This is my good friend Janta Sennaker, very smiley kid out as usual, about ready to hand over the desks. This is our project team, Jayanta, SL, Ranjit, Vasa, Vasanta De Silva with one of the teachers. I had always mentioned that Ranjit Wickramasinghe always came for this in shorts because he had a very powerful set of legs. He was a champion athlete, and I can remember that when we were running the 400 meters, I used to run in the in-house meets. This guy starts his sprint around the bend at the gym, and then the rest of us think it's a good opportunity to bail out. So we bail out and go to the gym because we don't want to be ridiculed at the finish line because this guy was a champion athlete. Now I figure out why he's always in shorts. This is a completed door you can see with good, I believe it was mahogany. These are the completed desks and chairs. This plaque for the Honorable Prime Minister who opened it on June 23rd, 2018. We completed our mission. Sister Group wishes to thank the Prime Minister for his great leadership and support for this project, the principal and staff, Provincial Education Ministry, Sri Lankan Army, 1960 alumni, Old Boys, East Coast Foundation, and one old boy from Toronto, Sri Lankan patriot who always generously donates to Sri Lankan charity, who spontaneously, without any request, heard about our project and gave us the money. We gratefully accepted that. Executive committee, you can see that. Ranjit Wickramasinghe was our logistics manager. Jayanta Senak, a project accountant. Vasanta was our secretary. All of these guys spent a lot of time and effort to complete this project under budget with the highest quality. So there's no conflicts of interest to disclose. None of the members of the 60 Group Development Fund benefited either personally or professionally from this project. There was zero administration and management overheads. That's why we were able to bring the cost down. All the money was for supplies only. There was no labor, no cost for architects, site managers, cost accountants, supply site managers, etc., etc. All questions regarding this project to be related to Sister Group Development Fund spokesperson Vajra Gunawardana. And I wish to end this project by thanking all of you, especially my good friends for over 60 years, the members of the Sister Group alumni. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor, and thank you, Royal College Group of 1960. A very significant proceeding, ladies and gentlemen, and I believe that all of us are extremely fortunate to have been graced with his presence on this momentous occasion. It gives me great honor to invite to the podium the Prime Minister of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka, Honorable Ranil Wickramasinghe, to address the stage gathering. Over to you, Honorable Prime Minister.
Principal, Honorable Minister, members, venerable members of the Sangha, members, the office bearers of the Royal College Union, members of the 60 Group, the head prefect and the prefects of Royal College, distinguished guests. We of the 60 Group have got together today to mark a common occasion when we have reached 4 years and 10. And as we are due to meet in the evening, we are met here today in the morning to do our duty, to say that we have repaid the debt we owe and we have held thy fame inviolable. To repay the debt collectively, we have done, as was pointed out here, the restoration and the furnishing of 10 classrooms of the Royal College West Wing top floor, sponsoring the RCU Loyalty Pledge Perpetual Scholarship, sponsoring the Lalit Katulanmujari Perpetual Scholarship, launch of the facsimile edition of the book History of the Royal College. I didn't know it was so valuable. I had my father's copy, and at that time, as he told me, there were 500 students in Royal College. long way from how many now? 10,000, 8,000 from the 8,000 that we have in school today. We then can be satisfied that we who went through Royal College, who learnt of books, who learnt of men, and who learnt to play the game, have fulfilled our task of achieving our goals in life and of repaying the school what we owe. I must thank those who acted as a project team for the untiring work they put in, which could not have been put in by some of us. We are an example for others to follow. We are very fortunate that our characters were molded by Royal College. Everyone calls it part of an institution in Sri Lanka. But I wonder, and I think it's more than an institution. It's a part of history. We have molded history and molded thinking. When Holbrook Cameron Commission report recommended, amongst other things, the establishment of a legislative council, the establishment of a legislative council, the unification of Sri Lanka under one system, the beginning of a unitary state, and finally the establishment of a school to educate young citizens in the values of this institution, in the values of what was being created. It was left to Governor Wilmot Horton to start this institution. Wilmot Horton was better known in England for having the most beautiful lady in England as his wife, in addition to a poem, I think, either written by Byron or Shelley. But he, few years or 2 years before that as governor, visited the Kota Institute, which became the Christian College Kotte, and the Sri Javardhanapura Mahavidyalaya, where I noted the greatest gift that we can give a nation is to educate its young. He took such an interest that he and many of his successors used to come and preside at the examinations held at Royal College. So we have also got to remember our principals, Reverend Marsh and Boak, who molded the school, those who went through and those who passed out, who set the first stages of independent Sri Lanka. James D. Alvis, a Sinhala scholar, member of the Legislative Council. Muthukumarasamy, English scholar, who if he lived would have been the first Asian member of the House of Commons. And C.A. Lawrence, who led the agitation for Sri Lankans to govern themselves. From this came a large number of leading royalists, including James Peary, Ponnambalam Ramanathan, Ponnambalam Arunachala, and of course the person responsible for modernizing Sri Lanka, President Java. In different fields, in different areas, not only in politics, in law, in sciences, in business, we have made our contribution and changed and shaped the history of this country. So I think it gives me certainly great pleasure to know that I was not merely an institution, but I am part of history. An American once visited London and he asked his English friend, he looked, where is the Thames? And he showed him the Thames. He said, do you call this the Thames? Do you call this a river? In fact, our rivers is big, it keeps flowing, and this is just a mere trickle. And the Englishman said, sir, that is river, those are rivers. This is history. That's all that we can say of our school laws. I don't want to take any more time. We thinking back of what we have done and that we are repaid. Vajira said, this is the last occasion. Vajira, next year, it's 60 years after joining, the 60 group. You keep forgetting that we can keep inventing. more and more occasions. Anyway, thank you for having me invited.
To reprint the debt we owe and to keep thy faith inviolate. Thank you, Honorable Prime Minister, for that royal address, and thank you for gracing this occasion despite your busy schedule. Moving on to another significant proceeding, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, the significant proceeding that we have lined up for this morning's proceedings, and that would be the launching of the history of Royal College. And to do the honors, I would now like to invite a fellow member of the Royal College Group of 1960, who is also the editor of the publication, Mr. Senaka Viratna.
Because the Honorable Prime Minister has to leave, we are going to advance this program, and Seneca is going to give the book to the Honorable Prime Minister. If the Honorable Prime Minister will just step down to the front so that Seneca can give you the book.
I had planned, let me begin by mentioning the chief guest who had just departed, the principal of Royal College and staff, the secretary and members of the Royal College Union, Mr. Vajra Gunawardena, the chairperson of this proceedings, ladies and gentlemen, and members of the 1960 group. Your presence here is very much appreciated. This is a very special occasion for all of us of the 1960 group. It's a flagship day. And I must begin by mentioning that the flow of theme events started with that stroll down Royal College corridors on the 6th of November by a group of 1960 group members. We went to just to have a look at the premises, and what we witnessed was far different to what we had anticipated. That shock of discovery that the landscape of the institution, the scene was far different to what we had witnessed when we entered Royal College in 1960, made us realize that we just could not look the other direction. So, having taken a decision then and there that we have to proceed in the direction of improving the situation, so many things flow. And all that have now been covered by the speeches of Mr. Vajira and Mohan Kumaratna, Dr. Mohan Kumaratna, so I don't need to dwell on it further. I had come prepared to making some references to Mr. Ranil Vikram Singh himself, having been a member of the Royal College Group, 60 group, as well as one of the few of the 60 group that was a contemporary of Ranil Vikram Singh in the Colombo Law faculty. That was what we encountered when I entered the Colombo Law faculty in 1960. I had come with some anecdotal references, but I think in his absence, that would not be all that relevant. My task today is to give a basic introduction to the new facsimile edition of the book. Now, much of what I'm going to say is thoroughly covered in the preface and also in the back cover of the. So I'll just turn the pages through the preface, and you'll see that the line of argument, the line of my presentation is basically based on that. Now I will tell you basically that this book is a product of a chance discovery. I have used the word serendipity. Serendipity means, as I have mentioned here, is a term that the Arab traders used to refer to ancient Sri Lanka. That's the term Serendip. They originally borrowed the name Serendip from Indian traders. It is in fact a corruption of the Sanskrit compound Sinhala Dilpa. It is the root of serendipity. Whatever we look at it, whatever way we look at it, serendipity underlies the publication of the reprint of History of Royal College, written by the boys of the school in 1931. In effect, this is the second edition of this valuable book. This preface deals with the genesis of the second edition. Now let me tell you how I happened to chance on the digital copy of this book. I went looking for a piece of statistical information from the book History of Royal College, written by S.S. Pereira and published in 1985. Upon reading the contents of the 4-page chapter, I realized that I must look for the original copy of this book, which has been referred to in S.S. Pereira's book. An elaborate search done on the internet finally led me to this valuable publication, fortunately available in a digital format at the Hathi Trust Digital Library, which in turn had been extracted from the original volume preserved at the Library of the University of Michigan, USA. In a relativist sense, it was a eureka moment for me of discovering something that none of my old school friends, in particular my ex-classmates of the Royal College 1960 group, or old boys of the school of my generation, knew before. My first impulse, without a moment's hesitation, was to think of sharing my online find with the Royal College 1962, and I did it without delay through an informal email network that continues to keep the bonds of friendship alive. In my enthusiasm and eagerness, I used a popular French word, voilà, which means calling to attention or expressing satisfaction with something that is being presented or something that has been accomplished. And being a favorite term of the celebrated French writer and novelist Victor Hugo, I prefaced my written message by saying, voilà, I'm happy to share my online find with you. The date was August 30th, 2017. The online edition, now I was able to discover the online edition, and I posted that with a web link, and it was warmly received by my friends, and it was re-forwarded by them to a countless number of others, both from Royal College and outside. It brought to life a whole chunk of school history that had simply disappeared or vanished into thin air and was not part of our collective memory. The work was too valuable to be left buried in the library of a foreign university or allowed to exist only in cyberspace. The idea of publishing a second edition gained ground. There was all-round support for the idea. The general consensus was that the Royal College 60 group must rise to the occasion and accept the challenge and the responsibility of publishing a second edition of the book, especially in the wake of the successful renovation of 10 classrooms in the west wing of the Royal College buildings under the watch of a select committee of the 60 group. The newly constructed classrooms were declared open by the Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe, a member of the 60 group himself, in the presence of a distinguished and representative gathering at an official function held at the school premises on June 23, 2018. We met at the Royal Golf Club after that event, and this whole idea came up. That was just 14 months ago. From June 3rd to 23rd. And it became clear to the 1960 group at the very outset that the logistics of publishing a reprint of the book of this book was formidable. The seed had to be germinated with a vision and plan of action. The right people had to be sought and found. This was no easy task. Through a process of sifting over a few months, a project team of 3 drawn from the Royal College 60 group to handle the undertaking was final form. It comprised myself, Dr. Aditya Bisundara, and Mr. Vajira Gunawardhan. This team soon became the linchpins of the whole project, without whose involvement the whole idea then never got off the ground. The first preliminary question we had to ask ourselves was, where can you find a copy of the original book in a relatively good condition to be used as a basic material for scanning? This became a significant issue in the light of the legal advice we received that copyright infringement problems might arise if a digital copy available on the internet was used. Physical copy, however, would not attract copyright laws as the book was now in the public domain. Fortunately, Dr. K.D. Pranavitana, who I have seen here today, former Director General of the Department of National Archives, came to the rescue when he answered the query by saying that a copy of the history of Royal College was available at the National Archives. Things started moving rapidly when Dr. Mrs. Nadira Rupasinghe, the current Director General of the Department of National Archives, welcomed this initiative and assisted us in providing access to a copy of the book and subsequent scanning by use of high-resolution modern scanning equipment available at the office of the Department of National Archives. We chose Vijitayava Publication to undertake the publishing of the book after careful thought and deliberation. The total cost of the publication was met by the generous advancement of the money needed by a very considerate benefactor whose name and background would need to be kept confidential at his own request. However, we remain very grateful to him for his generosity and high-mindedness in keeping the wheels for this publication effort in motion. The project team bore the brunt of the work. Dr. Aditya Bisundara is here, a good friend of mine from my low kindergarten days. He was the star of the batch from his earliest Royal Primary School days. Excellent in both studies and sports. He obtained colours for playing in the Royal College Hockey First 11 team. He played a prominent role in coordinating the work. In fact, I'll just add one more. He was virtually gave all the logistical support for this effort being located in Sri Lanka. while Mr. Vajragunawardana, a professional civil engineer, now resident in New Jersey, USA, used his competence and experience gained in spearheading several Royal College related projects for the sustenance and well-being of the school, to great advantage in moving forward the project through close monitoring and well-placed advice and suggestions whenever the need arose. We obtained very valuable support of expression from the Royal Principal of Royal College, Mr. B.R. Veratna, and the Secretary of the Royal College Union, Mr. Mikela Mendes, and that is to be mentioned here. The Royal College Union is a bridge between old boys and the college administration, and we take this opportunity to thank Mr. Atul Munasinghe, former Secretary, Royal College Union, and 3 members of the Royal College Board of Trust, namely Mr. R.J. De Silva, member of the Royal College 60 Group, Dr. Dilanjan Soisa, he is now overseas, they are vacationing in USA, and Mr. Lalit Kure for their lobbying efforts and unqualified support. Furthermore, we thank with utmost appreciation and gratitude Mrs. Julius and Tracy, one of the oldest civil law firms in the country, founded in 1879, for their invaluable legal services and advice rendered to us. Special mention was made here of Mr. Hugh Karanayaka, born in 1935, who was a member of the 1946 group, and for providing short descriptions of the post-school careers of the authors of the book. Mr. Jitayappa and 2 of his associates, Mr. Albadur Kader and Ruan Taranga. Taranga was responsible for the beautiful cover design, and Mr. Kader stood up by us, until the very end of publication. The names of all those others who helped this project in a variety of ways are specifically mentioned in a separate acknowledgement space, and I'm sure Dr. Aditya Vijayasundar will cover that. There is another beautiful beneficial objective in this project. The net profits of the sale of the book will be donated to the 1960 Group Scholarship Fund managed in accordance with the RCU's loyalty pledge. There is another component which is with respect to the content of the book. Now this book, the original book, is the brainchild of former Principal H.L. Reid. The original idea of writing a book on the history of the school by its very students came from the mind of H.L. Reid, Principal of Royal from 1920 to 1932. It was his brainchild and is inspired by his own experience as a school boy at Merchant Taylor's School in India. This is one of the great 9 schools of England which has provided an outstanding education to boys since 1561. Royal College became the 2nd school in the world after Merchant Taylor's School to have published the history of the school, researched and written by his own students. H.L. Reid was a highly creative man. His many innovations in school affairs, in education and sports confirm this recognition. They include the introduction of the prefect system, 1920, reorganizing of the house system, 1921, new college dress, 1923, college song composed and set to music by him, 1927, providing colours awards for sports, 1922, blazer for cricket, stripes and crest, 1928, and the salutary word, Florida. Building of the college pavilion in 1930, assisted by the Old Boys Union, and the writing of the history of the Royal College in 1931. In addition, several school associations were formed during his era. One such association was the Royal College Historical Association, which was founded at the end of 1930. It became the recruiting ground for authors of this book. A kind of committee came into being in the middle of 1931, which also had 4 masters in the school acting as editors, and the principal H.L. Reid acting as editor-in-chief. For about 6 months, all writing was forbidden. Time was devoted for collection of material. But during the holiday period at the end of 1931, that the young authors commenced their writing. This book, the original book, was published by H.W. Cave in early 1932. On March 12, 1932, a farewell dinner was accorded to the departing Principal H.L. Reid by the Old Boys Union at the Golfways Hotel. Sir Marcus Fernando, an old boy himself, a great distinguished doctor, presided at this function. There was drama enacted of somewhat of an unpleasant kind when the latter, Sir Marcus Fernando, in his speech, criticized the history by saying that the writing of the book had been put in the wrong hands, particularly in respect to chapters 4, 5 and 6. He said that the information given in these chapters was hopelessly wrong and erroneous. It was a pity that the boys had not consulted somebody, he said. He offered to make public in a day or 2 the grave errors specifically mentioned. That never happened. H.L. Reed, on that occasion, 3 days before his departure from the country, gave a fitting reply to the accusations of Sir Marcus Fernando and ended by saying, I think a good deal of what the boys have said in the history is right. The speeches of Sir Marcus Fernando and others made at the dinner have been reproduced in the Easter term edition of the Royal College magazine 1932, and a summary of these speeches is contained in the history of Royal College. We have extracted material from both the Christmas term edition of the Royal College magazine 1931 and Easter term edition of the Royal College magazine 1932, and reproduced them at the very end of this volume as part of a supplement and logical sequel to the main content. The reception afforded to the book after its launch and the touching farewell according to the departing principal H.L. Reed by the schoolboys are also well covered in these supplementary pages. We have also added further material of great significance that would deepen the reader's understanding of the values and cultural environment that prevailed in the school in the bygone days. We trust that you will find reading the reprinted history of Royal College with additional material plus illustrations a riveting experience generating nostalgia one has for one's alma mater. Now I'll just briefly touch on the supplementary material you must know that is contained in this book. That is what we have added. I'll just read out to you this table of contents, then you get an idea of what is in it for you to look at. We have now these are some of the additional material. Now this photograph is a very controversial, has brought a lot of attention. This photograph was never published in a school magazine. Never. This photograph was found in S.S. Pereira's book with no identification. There were no names given to the faces. But I remember, and this I would like to share with you, and this time for the first time, I was thinking last night that I saw this photograph framed in class 5B. 5B next to the prints. I saw that photo in 1964. Now I'd like to be proved I'm wrong. Now I also believe that a copy of that framed photograph may have been in the library in the mid-60s. Because it's very unlikely that teachers of the caliber E.C. Gunasekara and so many dedicated royalists would have allowed a picture of such importance and significance to be left buried and discarded. I mean, they were dedicated royalists to the fingertip. So it survived. It came up and again had disappeared. I'll touch on that again. Now, what we have done, we have made a tremendous effort to identify as much as we could some of the faces of the photograph, and we have succeeded. All the people seated on chairs are having identified, thanks to Mr. Suma Navaratnam, Kaluvarachi, Mr. Vikram Raj Urupu, and Hugh Karanaya. They have covered that. We have also identified by speaking to the relatives, especially the children of some of the figures, their fathers. But still more to be covered. And then we have also covered, and I think Mr. Kaluvarachi will touch on that, the post-school careers of these authors. That is the addition to this book. Then we have also some interesting material we have integrated into this book. The editorials from the Royal College magazines of 1931, 1932, an account of the old boys' dinner held on March 12, 1932. It's a fantastic account. But those days, those boys were very sharp. No event of significance was allowed to go unaccounted for without some writing on the part of the students of that period. Can you see that being done today? About why we had on June 23rd last year a very big event, proceedings. Have they been covered in Royal College magazines of today? Well, we have precedents in 1931-32. Then the farewell to Reed is very touching. Please read the farewell to Reed. All that signify one important element, that the students of those days had a golden thread running through them, and that thread was gratitude. Gratitude to teachers and gratitude to principals. And after seeing the gratitude farewell given to Mr. Reed. I went through some other pages of the Royal College magazines and I found similar treatment given to Mr. Sampson. And I thought that should get into this book. So we have covered both Mr. Sampson and also Mr. D.C. Gunawardena, Mr. Vajra's uncle, who was a teacher, well-known, revered teacher of botany, and all his 3 children were at Royal College, and one of them, Asoka, was one of the members of the sister group. Unfortunately, he met with an accident while riding a motorcycle on Gall Road. So we thought the extraction of an article on him would be quite in place. Then the boat gates, that was declared open in 1938 and is well covered in the college magazines. We thought that too should get in. Now, then there are also, of course, the jewel in the crown of supplementary material would be the account of the Royal College tour of Royal College cricket team tour of Australia in 1936. That is the best account that you will come across, and that was hidden, virtually buried in the Royal College magazines of 1936, and I got all of them republished in this book. And that alone will attract attention, not only Royalists, but Australian cricket fans, because that account has not reached the archives of that country. I'll tell you what happened one day. One day when I was in Australia, in Melbourne, in 1995, I called the archivist on the Melbourne cricket ground, and I asked him if he was aware of the Royal College cricket team tour of 1936. He said no. Then I asked him, then he said all that he knew that of the first team to come from Sri Lanka to Australia for the National Schoolboys Tour of 1961. I said he was wrong. And then he went back, and he came back to me again and said, apologized to me for his inaccuracy, and he said I was right. So the Royal College cricket team tour of Australia in 1936 was the first ever cricket team tour by any Asian country at any level of cricket to Australia. So we laid the seed for others to follow. Now having said that, we have incorporated, this is my last portion, we have incorporated a number of photos which I received from my friends. We have a photo of the class of 1920, given to me by my friend, lawyer Mr. Iftikhar Hashim, and that picture is very important because that picture gives the number of students intake. There are 30. That is, 30 students was the intake to Royal in 1920, but this is not the picture taken of the class of 1920 at the time of entry. Because at that time, the school was occupying the current university premises. But on October 23rd, 1923, the new buildings were declared open, and a number of people got photographs taken in front of a common background, and from that I was able to identify. So this photo, which has been published here, carries photos of Dr. Suleiman, Mr. A.I. Makan Maka. A.I. Makan Maka is the uncle of Hamza Makan Maka, whose father Alawi Makan Maka scored 87 runs in 1938. And A.I. Makan Maka won the Turner Scholarship, and he went to Cambridge and was an associate of W. Serenayaka. Mr. Hashim's father is also, his father is the son of W.M. Hashim, and he's also in the photograph, Taifur Hashim. And there are a lot of other people like Dr. Bathalinius, even there could also be this S.S. Javikrama seated on the ground. These photos carry excitement of its own. It helps you to locate who these people are. And of course, I've also got some photos from Avanti Karunaratne. Avanti Karunaratne has a royal background from both his mother's and father's sides. His grandfather was Dr. G. W. Karunaratne, who captained Royal in 1914, and a close associate of Sir Kotalabi, Jail Kotalabi. And he went to Middlesex. He was a well-known cricketer. He died at the age of 90. His two sons, Gemnu Karunaratne, there's a photo of him, which I got from Avanti. The matriculation class of the class 6, right, during the body. Again, that provides prospects for trying to identify the members, other members in it. And Nihal Gamukamaratna was the brother of Nihal Kamaratna, who also became a doctor, and he wrote a beautiful book on the Senkadagala heritage of Kandy. He captured Raga in 1947. So very raw heritage. And from his mother's side, he has something equally illustrious. His mother's father, her mother's father was Sri Nisanka, founder of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party. So I invited him for this function because he has such a royal background, and this is the most fitting place for her to be there. She's here today. So now I'm coming to the end of it. I'm happy that I was able to share this with, and there's also the section of the Royal 1962 contributions to the advancement of the Royal College. I'll end this my presentation. Thank you very much for your patience in listening to me with excerpts from the blurb in the backroom cover. Right? Let me have patience read. It's well written, and I'll read it out to you again. A chance discovery of a digital copy of the history of Royal College on the internet has led to the publication of this reprint within 2 years of such findings. The value of this publication is inestimable. It is the story of the school with a small beginning in a colonial setting in 1835, progressing over the years to become an iconic national institution. The preeminent public school that continues to set the standards for all other schools in the country. The authors were 20 students aged from 15 to 19 years, working under the watch of 4 masters in the school and a remarkable principal, H.L. Reed. The original publication broke new ground in Ceylon, as there was no previous instance of such a comparable narrative on school history produced by any other school in the country. It was inspired by an example set in a leading English school, Merton Taylor's. Royal College became the second school in the world to write its history by its own students. My last paragraph, this is the last paragraph, written in lucid language, exceedingly readable. The book deals with the varied challenges and tribulations the school faced, including the threat of permanent closure by the fear of the colonial government. Some of the leading lights in almost every sphere of Sri Lanka have had their basic education in this school. From New York to Melbourne and from New Delhi to Tokyo, the alumni of Royal College have left their indelible footprints in international organizations covering fields such as medicine, commerce, international law, space science, and interior in all spheres of school. How was this possible? The readers of this book would help discover the answer. Now, first last line, I just want to leave you these thoughts. These are my last thoughts. There is a need to preserve institutional memory in the school. Institutional memory is something we need to have. Those days when we had teachers of like Pai Roberts, Mr. T.M. Veerasinghe, I.J. Vijayasinghe, classics, they were all keen. They were people coming from classic background. Today, teachers are transferred from one institution to another. They have no institutional memory at all. They have a job to do, and that's all. So students come and go without any respect, regard, or value for the history of the school. We have to now change. I'm proposing that we establish we must establish to ensure that the preservation and development of the school's heritage fund. We have to do that. If you go to the Colombo, I was shocked. Now we are spending so much money on this school renovation, we are spending so much money on scholarship, but while at the same time neglecting a very important component. You go to the Colombo Museum Library, right? Luckily, the Jayachavadara Center Library maintains Royal College magazine in some state of preservation. If you go to the Royal College, if you go to the Colombo Museum Library, Ajita, I have been there several times. The Royal College magazines are falling apart. Within 5 years, those magazines become there for any research. And nobody look at it and do nothing. So I'm telling you that while we are thinking about improvement, that some money be set aside to ensure that these Royal College magazines, they are all part of the heritage of Royal College. Wherever they are found, are rehabilitated. There's something else I want to tell you, and I'll finish it. When I was a young kid, in the second, third, fourth, the corridors of Royal College, by the side of the college hall, see except the pictures hanging in the college hall. Where are they now? Nobody can give an answer. Okay, you have a small room allocated called the so-called archival room. That's also very poorly maintained. What I am suggesting to you, luckily all is not lost. The Royal College magazine, from 1896 up to now, especially up to 1950, all have beautiful photographs. They can all be converted into frame photographs, and we should make that effort. And again, reintroduce those photographs to line our corridors, line our classrooms, and make the current students admire their real, true forefathers, which is part of the college soul. So with this, I thank you for your patience. I spent more than 1 year with the help of Ajita and Vajira and also several others in trying to bring this book to existence. And I'm happy it is there. Now it's up to you all to evaluate and comment whether we have done justice to the cause and met your expectations. Thank you very much for
Thank you very much, sir. And to sum it all up, let's make Royal College great together. And moving on, ladies and gentlemen, I believe before I introduce this next individual, a formal introduction is in order. A distinguished old royalist in his own right, having been the recipient of the Governor General Prize, the Harvard Memorial Prize, and of course the Stubbs Prize, alongside the Canon Lucian James Memorial Prize, having been the college rugby captain, as well as a college prefect during his time. He was also the Director Consultancy and National Institute of Business Management, and right here this morning, he will be the presenter of the keynote address. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. U.L. Kalwarachi. Over to you, sir.
Principals, members of the table, at least people who have remained behind, my very dear friends, my royalist friends, and friends of royal who are here, ladies and gentlemen, I am deeply encouraged by your presence here, especially the ladies, because they are the spice of our lives. I also am encouraged because I just spot my very dear friend and classmate, Professor Lamabut Suri here, internationally renowned pediatrician, who has come here to listen to, I don't know, I didn't think he knew that I was going to speak. Anyway, let me start at the beginning. When I was approached by these members of the RC60 group, I was wondering why the hell have they thought of me. And my mind was wandering back to 60, 70 years ago as to what the hell I have done to them to have this consequential payback for something perhaps in their perception was a crime I had committed against them. Anyway, here am I. I was asked then by another member of the core group in a hurried call, please deliver. So I said, look, I am not a deliverer. And it was a very, very strange request from somebody who is quite apt at delivering, and his entire professional career he has been delivering all the time. And I think for the good luck of all the mothers. Anyway, here am I before you to what they call it, or to deliver, if you like it, his address to you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here today to mark a very pleasant completion of some noble, highly recommended projects by the RC60 group. And I'm not going to tell you what the projects are because you already know about it. But I can tell you if you look carefully, to my mind, these projects have somehow a connection with the noble business of learning. Scholarship involves learning. Well refurbished classrooms involves learning. And then the third thing about the book, which will hopefully inspire learning among the people who read. Now also I'm not going to spend too much time on how it started, but I can tell you that it was Mr. Reed who did it, as you know, and I'm sure Mr. Reed had something in mind, or should have had something in mind when he commissioned these 20 young boys of 16 to 19 years to take up this assignment. I believe that he wanted to encourage in the boys a nose for curiosity and discovery, and also to get a sense of history, because without a sense of history you lose your sense of direction. So they embarked on this, and Mr. Reed encouraged them to do so with the help of four masters who were assigned to edit this business of the publication. With him, as he himself says, was the editor-in-chief self-appointed. Now, this nose for curiosity and discovery is nothing new. These boys, of course, embarked on a discovery and came out with an excellent tome, which is a priceless book that will inspire a lot of people who read them. The nose for discovery more recently was apparent in some old boys in Australia. They went all over the place and discovered Dr. Brooks, our principal, revered principal's grave somewhere in Victoria, and another group of old boys discovered Mr. Harvard's grave somewhere off Queensland in Warwick. So the discovery and curiosity is among most royalists. I would like to, with your permission, without eating too much into your time, to share with you the knowledge I have. I also have a nose for discovery, by the way, to share some of the details about some of the boys, at least some of them who are responsible for this excellent task. Well, at least some of them whose details I have been able to cull. There were at least 4 lawyers. These boys actually, apart from excelling in school in various activities, including sports, they also, after reaching Manchester State, excelled in different spheres of professional activity and served the country and sometimes internationally too well, to the satisfaction of everyone. I would like to refer to some of them. Of course, I have been fortunate enough to personally know them. Now, there are 4 or 5 lawyers who became lawyers. Mr. Harry Jawadna and Mr. Eric Kamarasinghe were eminent QCs and PCs who trod the legal field with flying colors. There was Mr. L.A. Gunawardena, Asoka Gunawardena, who played rugby for Royal. I remember he used to attend, like a prayer, he used to attend the Old Royal rugby dinner every year until he passed away, moved on. He was a lawyer who entered the judicial service and became a district judge and so on. Then there was Mr. Ali Gunasekara, A.L. Gunasekara, who is coming from a long lineup of cricketing Gunasekara brothers at Royal, and one of them was E.C. Gunasekara, Khataya, if you like to, that's what he was called in school for whatever reason. And there was also another 2 lawyers, important, Mr. A.B. Pereira. In that photograph, Senator was talking about the biggest figure, I'm sure, must be A.B. Pereira. Because I have seen him in real life. He was, like it, he was the principal of Ananda College for a short time. He was a barrister, and he finally ended up as the ambassador for Sri Lanka in Cairo. Then there was Mr. Peter Kenneman. Of course, everybody knows about Mr. Kenneman. He was an excellent product of Royal College, and he captained the Royal Rugby team in 1934, and he proceeded to Cambridge, excelled in Cambridge before coming to Sri Lanka to excel in the political field. and his contributions to debate in Parliament is unparalleled and priceless, a skill that we will never see in today's Parliament. And there is, of course, there are others whom I personally known, and there was Mr. A.C. Bell, whose son is present here today, one of the sons. Peter Bell is in Australia, so Richard Bell is here. He went into a different field, into a special field of printing, and he qualified himself as a printer in Manchester, came back and joined the government printing department and rose to be the works manager, that is number 2 in the printing department, before he joined Haley's and went up the ladder to become a director there in one of the companies. But in between, he also was honored to be the professional and official printer to Lord Mountbatten, the Southeast Asia Command in Canada. He was also the editor of the Royal College magazine, and the account is given about this book in that 1932 magazine. He co-edited with Mr. Ashok Gunawardena. Then there are 2 who served Sri Lanka well and served the community abroad also internationally. One is Mr. Palitha Veeraman, a civil servant, a public servant, a respected public servant, who held many public offices in Sri Lanka, such as the Director of Cultural Affairs, G.A. Colombo, G.A. Kornagana, and the Commissioner General of Cooperative Development, and then finally ended up as an international civil servant with the International Cooperative Alliance station in New Delhi, and from that position he was able to contribute a lot to the literature of the cooperative movement. And of course there is, I can see his son here, one of the sons, Nalaka here, and there is also the other international civil servant, Ronan Tissa Ratnadunga, whose son is also a member of this 1960 group, and he of course gifted 3 sons to Royal, Ruan, Janaka, and where is that fellow singer? He should have been here today. Now, Mr. Ratnadunga was a pride of Royal, like all the Ratnadungas who were at Royal. And there's another Ratnadunga here, you can see. Now, he was a specialist in agriculture, land development and things like that. Anyway, he was with acceptance serving 2 ministers of 2 different governments as the additional permanent secretary to Mr. M.D. Banda and Mr. Kopekadu. And finally ended up as international civil servant with the FAO and UN, serving in Syria, Israel, and Indonesia. Now, these are some of the boys who have been the pride of Royal and who have been contributing to this book, this tome. Now, what about the masters? The 4 masters who have been appointed or assigned this task to edit this were specially chosen by Mr. Reed, and I can see that there is a reason for that. Of the 4 masters, 2 were classic scholars and 2 were specialists in history. And of the 2 classic scholars, Mr. I.S. Vijayasinghe and Mr. P.I. Roberts. And the historians were, or history scholars were, J.T. Fitch, that's a very interesting name, Fitch, and Mr. T.M. Vijayasinghe. I'd like to share some information about them also. Now, my friend Dr. Rohan Pereira here will be glad to know that and there is Viditya, the Thomians here, present here. They will be glad to know that Mr. I. Vijayasinghe was an outstanding student at St. Thomas. He is a classic scholar. He is reported to have won the first place in the world in the British Empire in Latin and Greek, but he ended up on the staff of Royal College. He had been a contemporary of some great Thomians like Warden Viseram, Sir Arthur Ranasinghe, and Mr. some other person, few others, Mr. S.W. Bandaranaike. He was contemporary, classmates with him, but he ended up at Royal and had a stint, or an excellent stint as a member of the staff. Now,
he was a die-hard Thomian. And I can tell you, it is reported that on Royal Thomian Day, he used to have the Royal Thomian flag in his car. And of course, proudly so. But he did not hesitate to educate his son in his wisdom at Royal. Nor did he hesitate to give his daughter in marriage to a royalist. So that therein lies another story. So I must, although this is not exactly related to the subject matter today, I must share something about Mr. Ayat Vijayasinghe, where I had the good fortune of knowing almost all his debuts. Some of them were at St. Thomas's and some were at Royal. One of them was a classmate of mine who passed away recently. Now Mr. Ayat Vijayasinghe, after leaving school, was appointed as the first principal of the Meerigama Government Training College, Teachers Training College. But he didn't last long there. He applied and got into, and this is an interesting story, very topical today. That's why I want to share it with you. He applied and got into, and it's a story about the power struggle between two power centers, which is very, very topical today. Now, he applied and got in to become the Charity Commissioner. The appointing authority was one power center, Local Government Services Commission, LGS. But the other power center, the mayor of Colombo municipality, refused to have it. And obviously because he didn't take kindly to this appointment, where he had his own favorite whom he was trying to get appointed. So what did the mayor do? He got his council to pass a resolution to suppress the job. I think you will recognize a lot of things here in the modern times as well. Now, the character of Mr. Vijayasinghe was such that he challenged this in court, brought a writ of mandamus against the mayor, and he won it. And the mayor had given, and Mr. Vijayasinghe served excellently with that great acceptance for a long, long time as a charity commissioner. Right? Now, about the other two masters, other three, the one I know very personally is Mr. T.M. Veerasinghe, history master. He was on the staff of Royal even when I was there. He was affectionately known as Penda, for the obvious reason that when he moved about or was stationary, he moved like a pendulum. So he was short for pendulum, and he was affectionately also known for lightheartedly describing the 7 Years' War as 7 Years' War went on for 7 long years. And lighthearted description to capture the audience of the students of the French Revolution. Boys, the French Revolution, chairs were broken, window panes were, chairs were thrown, window panes were broken, etc., etc. That was a short description of revolution, French Revolution. Anyway, they were, and then can I move on to two other masters? One was Mr. Fitch, who was a supervising editor. He was, if you want to tell, he was a historian, and he served in a lot of societies in college, and also was responsible for organizing annual winding a historical association to India, even at that time. And when he retired, and then there is Mr. P.I. Roberts, who was known as, because of his initials as Pi Roberts, was a classic scholar. He was described by Mr. Reed on the departure, on his departure, the day before he went, as one of the most, let me quote that to you about Mr. Pi Roberts. No school principal can ever hope to have a more loyal and more conscientious teacher than Mr. P.I. Roberts. Now that was a benchmark that any worthy school teacher or any member of the noble profession, teaching profession, could aspire. And I can tell you, my friends, before and after Roberts, and even our time and even thereafter, I'm sure there were a lot of masters or teachers at Royal who had reached this benchmark of being conscientious teachers, loyal to principal and the school. And I can just mention a few of them. Now, Mr. L.V. Gulrat, I didn't know him, but I knew his sons, the minister, Pagi Gulrat, and so on. He was a legend. There are many legends. There was Mr. B.C. Angi, who served with great acceptance on the staff of Royal, gifted 3 sons to Royal, one of whom is seated here, the eldest of whom is seated here. He was a rugby master, rugby coach, a careers master, history master, boxing masters, you name it, and he was in charge of those things, a great teacher. Then there was Mr. E.F.C. Pereira, my own classics master, who was a very gentle soul, and just Veera Singh, and Kambapille, C.V.A. Ratnayake, who was called Gandhi because he strongly resembled that figure. There was Mr. Cecil Belloc, Bob Edwards, Cowbox, Abhay Singer, and of course, I cannot forget Mr. Lenny De Silva because he was also making absolutely marvelous contribution to the general welfare of the school. And I can see Vasanta here, another 60 group, son of Sri Lanka, son of Royal, who was his second son, I think, or third son. Right. Anyway, now I must go back to Reed, if you don't mind. Now, it has been recorded that his reign or his period of 12 years has been a golden era in the history of our school. In other words, if I may call it, a regal reign of Reed. It was excellent things he has done. Seneka has already mentioned something, but I think I need to share with you 2 other things that he did at school for the benefit of the school, a long-lasting change. One was to establish a games club, a precursor to what we have today, the Royal College Games Council. And it was the Games Club that was given the responsibility of approving and guiding all sports at Royal, which is done even today. And I think the masters at Royal also will hopefully take note of this. And it was for the first time, colours were awarded for sports. And those colours were guided by the rules framed by the Games Club, which was formed by Mr. Reed. And even today, the colours are determined, the rules of colours for various sports are determined by the Games Council, recommended of course by masters in charge and so on and so forth. So, and more importantly, my friends, the song we sang in the morning today, with Lusty Throats, was composed by Mr. Reed and set to music by Mr. Reed. So for that alone, we have to raise a cheer to him. So I don't want to take too much of time, but about this, the achievements of Mr. Reed. But there is something else that he did. He was, of course, as it is reported in another article written by E.H. Vanderwall, that he inculcated a fine feeling of esprit de corps among the staff and the boys. And he also started the prefect system to give responsibility and a notion of self-governance and discipline to his boys. He did, well, although he was esprit de corps with the staff and the boys, that did not detain him from being a strict disciplinarian. And I must tell you, he has had the honor of caning the head prefect of the day. And that head prefect, for being lenient with a friend who should have been punished. So apparently, the head prefect, whose name I didn't want to mention, was given 6 soft cuts. And the miscreant, the head friend, got 6 severe square cuts. Now, the miscreant was a cricketer. I think that's the time he got the best lesson in square cuts that day. how to execute a square cut that thing. Now, he was a strict disciplinarian. He, no nonsense with him. Of course, getting discipline from moderate corporate chastisement was not out of place then, and it was not out of place during our time. But at the same time, I must tell you that there were masters with the sheer force of their personality, got the right discipline without raising a finger. And I can advert to Mr. Vijay Veerasinghe, another legendary teacher, and this is personal experience, this one. And my friend Professor Lamabad Surya was also in the class that day, the original Latin class, and he used to give us homework, heavy Latin homework. And he used to tell us, you have to finish this over the weekend, and I'll see you on Monday. If you don't finish it, serious consequences will flow. And this is the punchline. That is a promise and not a threat. None of us ever allowed him to fulfill that promise. Then secondly, again, in another class, a post-lunch class, a very sleepy class, a friend of mine walked in whistling into class, and Mr. Veerasinghe turned around and I said, have you had bird seed for lunch? And that was it. The message was given. Nobody ever thought of whistling again after that. So these are people who are great, they are legends, who have brought honor to the school as members of the staff, bringing the right discipline and molding us. Now, Royal has had principals throughout, and I must tell you that some of them stood up to authority fearlessly. Of course, the times were different, but they stood up to authority. Now, 2 or 3 instances I can mention. It's of interest that Mr. Reed one day has been having lunch when the then Director of Public Instructions, that was the equivalent of the Director of Education then, had walked in and asked to meet him. The PN had come and had said, told him, sir, so-and-so has come. Said, ask him to wait. And he took his time with his lunch. When he came, the director was up at him saying, what the hell do you mean by getting late when I come? And so on and so forth. And he addressed Mr. Reed without a prefix. I say Reed. And Mr. Reed said, surely, Mr. Director, you should know that a wartime officer like me should be addressed in the right manner. And the director, in a huffed and puffed and retired without a fuss. In more recent times, Mr. Correa had told the director, when he came to meet him unannounced, told the PN, ask him whether he has an appointment. If he doesn't have an appointment, he can't see me now. And that director, a very highly respected civil servant, retired gracefully, because that was the modus operandi of the day. More recently, during my time, another very interesting story, I think Sarath also will remember this. We used to have this excellent practice of having speakers at General Assembly, eminent speakers from outside, to address the General Assembly on Friday, the entirety of the body. Now, I can remember this very well because the eminent speakers like KPS Menon, Gundivia, and all kinds of fine people came and spoke to us, addressed us. This particular day, a very high civil servant official from the Education Ministry visited the school to address us, and I must say that his address was excellent, but he made one mistake. He just said, Royal is for the elitist. And Mr. Dudley De Silva was the principal then, highly respected principal. He waited for his turn and customarily thanked him for the speech, and his standard face was instructive and interesting speech. And then he said, I want to remind the director about one thing, about the comment you made about Royal being only for elitists. My head prefect sitting down there He's from remote Beliartha, and he's the son of two respected schoolmasters. You could imagine the reaction from the students there. And of course, there was a visible change in the demeanor of the speaker. So, you see, this is reflected by Mr. W. T. Silva in his report, in the Royal College ICD report, as is like this, about Royal not being for the elitists. We continue to shine as a citadel of democracy, speaking of Royal, where high and low, rich and poor of all races and creeds strive together in unity and fellowship towards their own advancement and for the common weal. And again he says in another report, we endeavor to live and act in unity, brotherly love as as members of one great body. Now, my friends, if that tamarind tree, the Siamala tree you saw the diagram there, the fragrance, the twangy fragrance of which is still lingering in my mind, if that tamarind tree could speak, it would say how young royalists of all hues, rich and poor, competed intensely for supremacy around that tree, that yet forged great friendships and maintained their unity in diversity as one royal family. That is how we were brought up in our dear school. Ladies and gentlemen, royal was never made in a day, nor was it mere brick and mortar. From the time she breathed the spirit to life above, as they say in the song, succession of great principles, some distinguished than others, have been responsible for shaping with great concern and care the journey of Royal College, shaping her, right? And Royal has enjoyed success. Royal has also many times been successful even to this day, but also faced adversity. It faced closure in 1851, a threat of closure. Again, many times that is under Bow, and many times under Hartley, many times closure. Experienced some, and also we nearly had a change of name twice over. One in the 19th century, when an appendage of a Queen's College was trying to be brought into Royal, and secondly, in the 70s, when the name was, there's an assault on the change of the name again, and only the old boys, the strong old boys, the lobby that helped change the situation. I still remember this very well because Mr. Prime Minister was also there in the second incident I was talking about, fiercely fighting to stave off this change of name. So, all order changes naturally. And with that, the dynamics also have to change. And Royal has been able to adapt to itself to many changes, sometimes drastic, and being able to adapt it very, very well to the changes in that have been happening around us. But I must tell you something. Principles of at that time, or principles today and in the near past, did not enjoy or do not enjoy, unfortunately, the same freedom, the freedom principles of yesteryear, like Reed and all those wonderful people there, to enjoy and to develop the school innovatively and into a great institution with its own ethos and culture. Now, this is not, I'm taking this with a lot of concern because principals today, including my dear sir here, pardon my saying this, and for which he can't be held responsible, they are hopelessly exposed to a different environment. They are reeds of a different kind wafting in the inimical gusts of potentates and panjandals. So we have to guard against that if the school is to survive. The reality is, in changing time, now, I think the Prime Minister mentioned about from 500 to 8,300. Now the school has expanded. I'm not saying that expansion is good, bad or ugly, but there is potential for diminution of quality. And that is what everybody concerned about Royal must worry about. Because if you don't have quality, there is no point in having quantity. We must ensure quality. And with all that constraints, a few years ago, Royal was proudly selected as the most innovative school in Asia and won the Microsoft Award. And this is out of 30 schools selected worldwide according to accepted some defined standards. We were the first winners of that in 2 or 3 years ago. So there is hope, there is quality. That is the important thing I like to share with you. And finally, the wish is that Royal be given the freedom to continue to produce quality products. Quality mens sana incorporates sana products. Products with a healthy mind and a healthy body. And I can see a lot of people of the past, students here who can proudly say that they were mens sana incorporates sana products. And I must tell you again a quotation from Mr. W.D. Silva. Loyal to each other, loyal to the school, loyal to the country. The products loyal to each other, loyal to the school, and loyal to the country, accepting good citizenship as defined by the young men of Athens, the oath taken by the young men of Athens. May Royal continue to produce quality products. And in conclusion, I must tell you, I salute the memory of Mr. Reed and company who are responsible for this excellent publication. I also, my lusty throats now raise a cheer to the 1960 group for the excellent work they have done in the name of the school to repay their debt. But at this stage, I must tell you, we can never ever repay that debt. The debt is eternal. Let's remember that. And I thank this group, and especially the core group trio, in particular, for rekindling, republishing, with the value addition, and relaunching the value-added version of the history of Royal, and for successfully completing the highly commendable projects that were mentioned today, which has been, I would say, a very good success. And it is obvious to me that there had been unity among them to produce these results, and they have worked hard in unity as a team and delivered, if you like. Just that catchy word again. And as the Latins say, ubi concordia, ibi victoria. That means where there is unity, there is success. So, a good lesson for all of us. I thank you very much for your patience. I thank everybody for inviting me here. And without your presence, I would not have been standing here. Thank you.
A keynote address worthy of the name Royal. Mr. Uday Lakshman Kalwarachi, thank you very much, sir. And to deliver the response, if you would, I would now like to call upon another special individual. He is the founder, the managing director, and now the chairman of the pharmaceutical giant Imakemi, and he was also a former secretary of the Royal College Union. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Nimal Jayasinghe.
Mr. B.A. Aberatna, Principal of Royal College, members of the head table, Mr. Senaka Biratna, Dr. Ajita Vijayasundara, Mr. Vajira Gunawardana, Project Directors of the publication, friends, royalists, and countrymen. Before I proceed, sir, I like you very much. In this day and age, I would urge you not to try to emulate Mr. Ray, Mr. Korea, or Mr. Naltisen, because Royal College needs you for a further period of time to achieve its objectives. Gentlemen, I had just gone through a painful dental extraction a couple of weeks ago and was in a state of stupor when kindred Dr. Ajita Vijayasundara called me and requested me to speak a few words at this book launch. Without giving much thought, actually I was in a state of stupor, readily agreed, only to realize within a few hours how stupid I had been when I received an email from Seneca wherein inter alia he had explicitly outlined his expectations of a speech filled with eloquence, knowledge, and sheer oracle. That certainly was too much to be expected from a man who had failed to secure enlistment even as a relief announcer at Radio Ceylon way back in the 60s. I believe it has been a case of a mistaken identity to have me standing before you today. But such is your fate and that of mine. It's that's your karma. Be that as it may, my friend, the classicist Lakshman Kaluarachi, has already waxed eloquent as to the enormity of the task undertaken by the class of 60 through the leadership skills of Seneca, Ajita, Vajira, and the rest, in not only reproducing a facsimile reproduction of the history of Royal College written by 4 students way back in 1931, but also in developing the general infrastructure of the college. Your commitment to the cause of Royal, though without fanfare, has been commendable, since much has already been said and highlighted. May I simply add my big thank you. In response to Lakshman, I would want to deviate from the history of our college to a prospective aspect. What Royal College would need futuristically, or what the country would need futuristically. Since we all know that much material attention is being given to college at this moment of time, I thought I should draw your attention to an equally important area of activity, an area which does not receive adequate attention. Whereas we very much regale over the excellent results obtained at curricular and extracurricular activities, do we pay the same attention to the need of having students in learning of men? Learning of books, yes. Playing cricket, yes. Playing rugby, yes. But what about learning of men? Unlike during our times, when the whole school had only a little over 1,000 students and also had about 220 teachers, of whom 10% were old royalists, today the equation is entirely different. A student population in excess of 8,500 has a teacher population of circa 400, of which 270 are females. Imagine Visakha Vidyalaya having 70% male teachers. You just think it out. It's very difficult to upkeep and sustain traditions of a venerable institution. Approximately 750 students leave school each year, and only around 300 enter seats of higher learning, which, put in a more blunt manner, reflects that as many as 450 royalists, make note, 450 royalists, are joining society without a definitive way forward. No doubt this matter merits and warrants serious attention. Unfortunately, there no longer exist personages such as Mr. W. K. G. De Silva, Mr. B. C. Angi, Mr. E. C. Gunasekara, Mr. Elmo De Bruin, Mr. Vijay Veerasinghe, Mr. Rasa Rajaratnam, Mr. Cecil Bellet, Mr. E. F. C. Pereira, or even Mr. H. K. Jawad. Such pedagogues impacted on us heavily. Even if we did not learn of books, we were well made to learn of men. And that is the reason, gentlemen, that many non-academic oriented roles held sway in large business conglomerates in Sri Lanka and even across the globe. In this regard, I would want to relate a very small anecdote. Way back in the 60s, my mate John Ebert, who is now well settled in Australia, during class time, asked the teacher, Mr. Cecil Bellet, "Sir, can I go to the bathroom? Sir, can I go to the bathroom?" To which Mr. Bellet simply responded, "Ebert, you can go to the bathroom, but you may not." The lesson was indelible. Men can be made only through processes such as that. Despite a spree of meditation programs spread across the country and also a plethora of Dhamma sermons, it remains a stark fact that greed, indiscipline and impatience pervade our society, creating much havoc. On the other hand, it is a hard fact that ethical values and standards of merit keep tumbling by the day. Meritocracy has been replaced by a new word called politicracy, which has come to stay, unfortunately, further devaluing our social standards. Instead of confining ourselves to pious platitudes, we need to define ways to overcome such morass. We have heard for quite some time of unemployed graduates not securing employment and taking to the streets. You have seen them on TV, I'm sure, but those of you managing profitable business ventures, would you be willing to consider employing any one of them in your respective organizations? These fellows who are going marching, seeking jobs. If not, why not? That's $1 million question. As we all know, if one needs to achieve a given objective, one needs to remain stubborn with a goal, even though the methods could be flexible. This very class of 60, which boasts of high-octane political clout, with names such as Vikramasinghe, Samaravikrama, Gunawardena, Athurala, Vijayasundara, Abhiratna, et al., in addition to many academics and professionals, can well create a climate to develop value building through committed efforts. Gentlemen and ladies, the buildings of this institution, the Royal College, remain vacant after 3 p.m. daily. And would it not be a good project for the class of 60 to consider to create a fee-levying curriculum consisting of subjects such as ethics, leadership training, business English, social etiquette, and even transcendental meditation. Through a faculty of committed alumni who should in return be provided with monthly honorariums. Incidentally, TM or transcendental meditation, which is Samatha Bhavana, as you know, was actively practiced by multinational corporations since 1990s. I don't know how many continue still, but he was also very much in the forefront in this. Needless to mention, we will need to create a business case with absolute determination and commitment to make it a success. Nothing succeeds like success. And who knows, this may well be the opening to a board of management for Royal College as envisaged by some senior old boys. And one of those senior old boys who is seated here as a chief guest, unfortunately is not here to listen to this message. Vajira, Seneca, Ajita, thank you for the monumental effort, but I remind you that the job has not been half done. The book has been printed, priced, and made available in the market, but considering its invaluable contents, I believe a well-defined plan of action would be necessary to have the book made available to as many royalists as possible, and also to the peasant boys in order that they be able to digest and assimilate the nostalgic history of this venerable institution. My humble request is that do not allow copies of this fascinating publication to get a dust in some storerooms simply due to their not being ready by us. Storerooms and warehouses are not only the graveyards of your profits, but they also happen to be the graveyards of your high-profile objectives. Seneca, in your jargon, it then would be the taste of criminal negligence. Thank you for your presence, thank you for your attention, and do have a pleasant afternoon.
Simple, humble, and prove the entire audience that quality always prevails. Thank you, sir, for that wonderful address. And ladies and gentlemen, and dear royalists, we have reached the latter part of this morning's agenda. And doing the honors of delivering the vote of thanks, let me now call upon Dr. Ajita Vijayasundara. Over to you, Doctor.
I will not take much time because I need to go to the loo actually, so I'll take in double quick time. Ladies and gentlemen, royalists, young and old, and the many Thomians who have come here to grace this wonderful location. We are extremely happy that it's Anu Tenakor, Ron Pereira. I don't know whether PLD Kali was familiar. He was invited by me, and it's great to see royalists actually coming to a royal function. Ladies and gentlemen, all the teachers have come here, and all the young ones. So it's an honor and a privilege to deliver the vote of thanks at the end of this prestigious event. At the end of my vote of thanks, I will be paying a tribute to the magnificent 1960 group, easily one of the finest batters that walked the corridors of Royal College. The Honorable PM unfortunately has left us and gone. My classmate from lower kindergarten, I knew him from the age of 4.5 years. Unfortunately, but he has always honored our request. And for every royal event, he has never failed to come. Even a Royal Thomian match, he will find the time. Whatever you may say politically about him, he has always come. And in the night also, he is coming for our banquet. So thank you very much, sir. The Principal Royal College for coming and gracing the occasion, and for bringing all these wonderful teachers and these young students who will carry the message, the history of Royal, to the next generation. And I wish you that you will live till 90 and say, I was there on that day when that book was launched. The Secretary of Royal College Union, Mr. Mithila Mendes. Thank you, Mithila, because without the Royal College Union, I don't think we could have embarked on this fantastic function. And I have to thank the others in the union, Mr. Lalit Kure, Mr. Abhay Amradasa, and Dr. Hiran Vemraratna, and the others in the archive committee for giving us this opportunity. And Vajra Gunawardana, the man from New York, who has done everything and financing. Thank you, Vajra, for all that you have done, because without you, nothing would have come about. It is not only one book that you have financed, you have been involved in all 3 projects, and thank you very much. And Dr. Mohan Kumar Ratna, my hockey friend and my long-term medical friend, he comes from Huntington Beach. In Sinhala they call it Dadayam Vella. And thank you for that wonderful presentation. The keynote speaker, Mr. UL Kaluarachi, a distinguished alumni of our school and rugby captain, whom we admire as Little Devil. He called us the Little Devil. And this is the Little Devil who invited him and cajoled him to accepting this invitation. And of course, the many hundreds of lines that he gave me after school, and also the little mischievous devils who played hell in school, certainly you have made us into men and what we are today. Thank you for the discipline instilled in us, Kalu. Thank you. And Nimal Das Singha for the wonderful advice that he has given us to how to proceed with Royal College. I thank all those who have attended this ceremony, sacrificing a much longer nap on a Saturday morning. And a special thank you to the editor Senaka Veeratna, whose untiring efforts unearthed and brought about the reprint and publication of this book. Senaka and I, for the last 1 year, have spent many hours at the National Museum, Jayajawardhana Museum, and the National Archives, collecting information from Royal College magazines of the 1930s. In the process, I have been subjected to many parking fines and wasting valuable time at police stations. Senaka has had many sleepless nights, working very hard at great expense to his health. Certainly not an ego-boosting exercise, as some would say. Senaka is a highly skilled and knowledgeable writer, and from his childhood days, he read Bertrand Russell. I read comics, Roy Rogers, Enid Blyton and Hardy Boy, but Senaka was at a different level. And he is a proponent of the DRS in cricket, and he addressed the Japanese Parliament, thanked the Japanese for their role in the Second World War and the resulting liberation of the colonies. He has always been rebellious in his thinking. He even wrote to the principal, Bogata Premaratna, once, making suggestions how to run Royal College. He survived 3 cuts of his bum, which was the order of the day during our time. I also wish to take this opportunity to thank the reconstruction and refurbishment teams, Vajra Gunawardana, R.J. Vikramasinghe, S.L. Fernando, the architect who did a wonderful job, Mohan Kumaratna, and Vasantha Silva, and our legal expert, Deepthi Liyanage. And the 2 commanders of the army, who, with their corporate social responsibility, first it was Trisantha Silva, and then Anandian took over, Mahesh Senanayaka, and they supported this cause to the hilt. The scholarship team of Raj Gonsalkorala, Sanat Nanayakara, Thilen Adesan, and Vajra Gunawardana, for starting this scholarship scheme, which I think will end up very successfully. And I can't forget Lionel Gulusekara. Lionel and RJ helped us quite a lot in the book project. Julius Creasy for the free legal advice that was given to us. And Adira Rupasinghe of the National Archives, Jayajawardhana National Museum, who encouraged us to go through our research, and Vidita Yapa, publication, you gave us labor pain. Because the books came only at 8 o'clock this morning. And Mr. Karanga and Mr. Mr. Yapa, for all the help that you gave us. I wish to thank the magnificent 1960 group for the enormous contribution made to Royal College via the 3 project. Their contributions amounted to over 35 million rupees, and I doubt any other batch at Royal College making such a big contribution to the alma mater. I think we have certainly repaid our debt, the debt we owed. It was in the 1970s that this group was formed initially, with Madhav Perera, Ranil Wickramasinghe and Sepal Amarasuriya were the pioneers who started this group, and later Ajit Abhiratna Tilla Nadesan and Jayanta Jayasinghe, S.D. Selnayaka, Paddy Vitana joined in to make this group into a very vibrant and productive and cohesive group. You will now forgive me if I bask in the glory of the achievements of the 60 group. Nimal Das Jayasinghe, you once said we were a politically very powerful lot. Nimal, we are much more than that. We produced the Prime Minister 4 times over, 2 leaders of the opposition, Anura and Rani, and an honorable speaker in Andhra Bandaranaike, a chief government whip and a leader of the MEP, Dinesh Gunawardena, and an honorable Minister of Trade and Commerce, Malik Samaravikrama. Academically, the 60 group has been outstanding. Recently, Professor Kumar Wickramasinghe, the son of a Cambridge wrangler, was awarded the Fellow of the Royal Society. His optical microscope is being used by NASA in the Mars expeditions. Well done, Kumar. You have really made us proud. And we produced the best all-island results in 1964 in the O-level, with Ranjan Ramasamy getting 8 out of 8 distinction, a feat which has not been paralleled, I think, for about 4 decades. The previous one was Father Peter Pillai. He got 8 out of 14. Several have got 7 Ds and 1 credit, but Ranjan got 8 out of 8. And more than 8 professors, too many to count, and a DSc was awarded to Professor Daratna Surya, Professor of Zoology in the Colombo University. We had over 10 PhDs, too many to mention, Harat Kapulawala and so many others. 4 first classes in physics honors, and over 10 PhDs, 14 medical doctors and lawyers galore, and 3 presidents of the Colombo Law Faculty Students Union came one after the other, Ranil Wickramasinghe, Seneca Veeratna and R.J. De Silva. We had a Deputy Inspector General of Police, Jayanta Jayasinghe, and 2 Army Brigadiers, Mohan Rockwood and Vipul Botejo. 2 Chairmen, Boards and Corporations, Paddy Vitana and R.J. Wickramasinghe, who was Chairman of Ports Authority, and heads of banks, Ananda Korala, NDB, and R.J. De Silva at TFC. M.K.L. Fernandez, Sunil Mendes, they were also bankers. Then we had the very talented Bhadraji Jayatilaka, brilliant artist, singer, composer, and poet, and won the Golden Pen Award in the US for his poetry. I forgot my good friend. We produced an Attorney General, Attorney General C.R. De Silva, who captained Raga in 1968 and won both the Gunaratna and Bradley, and captained Ceylon's Gold in 1968. And of course, my good friend Sanat De Silva, who has contributed so much, was the only one who got Raga colors and cricket colors. Well done, Sanat. We had 2 cricket captains, Ranjit Gunasekara, and our hero was Ernie Newell, who won the Royal Domian for us after 18 years. Vairovanathan won it in 1951. Ernie was the hero of the match. And Ernie was very keen that I called the opposing captain, P.D. Karyavasam. I don't know, he said he was coming. Anyway, he is now represented by Amruchandra Kaur. And anyway, another Thomian, Rohan Parai, here to keep the Thomian flag flying, because my brother was also Thomian. He went to the wrong school. It's a magnanimous gesture on the Thomian part to come for a royal function. And I have to thank Erdi and Harsha Vijayatunga, whose father captained Royal in 1927, for providing some of the photographs that are appearing in the supplement of this reprint. In rowing, we won the regatta in 1968 under Anand Kumarasinghe. In athletics, We had Manik Samaravikrama, who held the ground record at Royal for 1,500 meters, and the Colombo South group record in the 800 meters. And R.J. Vikramasinghe and Vijayalal Pintu Jayawardena were in a record-breaking under-16 relay team at the head of the relay carnival. In swimming, we had Vipul Bodhe breaking the Ceylon record in the 100 meters breaststroke. The only boy to represent Ceylon at that time was still in school. Unfortunately, not here. In table tennis, we were public school champions in 1967 under the captaincy of R.W. Vijay Tiraka. In hockey, we had 4 in the 60 group representing Colombo School, Mohan, Samuel, Aditya, and Paddy Vitana, and 2 were selected to play for Ceylon School, Paddy and Aditya. And Vasa, you have done yeoman service to hockey at Royal, because after we left school, hockey went into the doldrums, and you have revived it, and now today, Royal is either number 1 or number 2 in the All-Ireland list. In tennis, we had Nihal Jumbo Fernando, who played in the junior Wimbledon. So it's a long list of sporting achievements, and I don't want to go further, but it's a fantastic academic and sporting achievements by we can boast of. And our achievements in the 60 group radiated and rubbed off on our wives. And you say, happy wives make happy lives. And we had 3 professors amongst the wives. Maitri Vikramasinghe, the professor of English, Mano Sena Nayaka, professor of pediatrics at Colombo, and Anula Vijayasundaram, founder professor and of medicine in the KDU and current president of the SLMA. I don't know, the husband is a simple fellow, I don't know. And Anila Das Bandar Nayaka, deputy governor of the central bank and renowned economist, wife of Ramesh Dayal. Sami Karunaratna, a PhD in Buddhist studies. So many who have done extremely well. And Kamalini, Bulla's wife, who was the secretary to the Ministry of Justice. I'm sorry I may have been boring. I was told specifically by my wife, none of your crude gyno jokes, please. Finally, a big thank you to the young Kompia Daham Gunawardena for his excellent presentation, and the floral arrangements by another doctor from Lasana Flora, Dr. Lasanta Malavigi. This will certainly be our last hurrah, because we are all 70 and plus. 35 out of 175 are with us no more. In appreciation of all those who have made this event an enormous success, I wish to offer 3 hearty cheers to the Royal College Union and the audience with all these ladies and gentlemen, and to the magnificent 60 group. Hip hip hip! Hooray! Hip hip hip! Hooray! Hip hip hip! Hooray! Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Ladies and gentlemen, this entire event revolved around a publication. And if I may, the time has come for us to close the book on this event. It was an honor and a privilege to be a part of an esteemed gathering consisting of all royalists and, of course, all Thomians alike. And with the reminder of we are not part of an institution, we are part of history, and the debt that we owe is eternal. Ladies and gentlemen, to mark the conclusion, let us all rise the national anthem.
Please bear with me, this computer is pretty slow.
He's living at the computer. He's a guy from California. He doesn't know. Review of a happy hour. Thank you very much for coming. Now we have a fantastic high tea set up outside, but before we do that, we want to take a group photograph of all the old royalists right in front, please. Around this shape, our camera. Some can stand in front, and others can stand on the second row, on the third row. All the old royalists, including the Sony and Shu, I guess.